Beautiful spicy ladies. Now, I know that word cheat can stir up a storm of feelings. Hurt, fear, maybe even curiosity. I've been there, felt that sting, and I've walked with countless folks through it too. This isn't about pointing fingers or piling on guilt. It's about peeling back the layers, understanding why it happens, and finding a way to build something stronger. I've pulled these 5 signs from years of coaching, my own tangled love stories, and those quiet moments where life hands you a lesson you can't unlearn. So, before we dive in, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and join our amazing Spicylady soulful intimacy by using Spicylady technique and psychology quotes about life, where we uncover the secrets of love, intimacy in relationships, and everything in between. Hit that button and let's grow together. I'll start with a story that set this in motion. Years back, I was with a woman, let's call her Anna, who I thought was my forever. Things felt good, laughter, late talks, until they didn't. She started pulling away, and I found out later she'd cheated. It gutted me, but it also woke me up. I started asking, why? Not just with her, but with every story I've heard since. These 5 signs aren't excuses, they're signals, clues to what's brewing beneath. Let's unpack them, step by step, and see what they teach us about love, trust, and ourselves. Sign 1. He's starving for validation. It's one of those quiet currents that runs deeper than you'd think, and I didn't fully get it until I lived it. Picture this. I was with Anna, the woman I thought was my forever. Early days filled with late-night talks, shared dreams over cheap wine, the kind of connection that felt unbreakable. But then life crept in the way it does. She got busier. Work ramped up, her phone buzzed constantly with friends. And I started fading into the background. I'd come home after a long day, maybe after fixing something at the office or pulling off a small win, and I'd wait for that spark of recognition, that little "you're enough," that used to come so easily. Instead, she'd glance up from her screen, toss a distracted, "That's nice," and keep scrolling. It wasn't her fault, not really. She was stretched thin, but I didn't realize how much I craved that nod, that "I see you," until one afternoon at work. A coworker, someone I barely knew, caught me troubleshooting a mess of cables and grinned. "You're a lifesaver, you know that?" It was nothing, a throwaway line, but it landed like a thunderclap. I felt seen, and that's when it hit me. Men cheat when they feel unseen, when the places they expect to matter most, home, work, stop reflecting their worth back to them. This sign, it's not about fishing for compliments or some fragile ego trip, though it might sound that way if you skim the surface. It's about a need, a bone-deep hunger to feel valued, to know you're not just drifting through life like a ghost. It's significant because when that validation dries up, it carves out a void, quiet at first, but loud enough to echo. With Anna, I didn't step over the line, but I felt the tug. I'd linger at work, not because I wanted that coworker, but because her casual, "You're good at this," filled a gap I hadn't named. I'd come home to silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that makes you wonder if you're even there. I'd cook dinner, nothing gourmet, just a stab at connection, and she'd breeze through, "Looks good," without tasting it, her mind a million miles away. I didn't cheat, but I got why someone might. When you're starving for that "you're enough," and someone else hands it to you, it's hard not to bite. I've seen this play out beyond my own story, too, in the men I've coached over the years. Take Tom, a guy who walked into my office looking like he'd lost his compass. He'd been married a decade, 2 kids, a mortgage, the full suburban dream. But he'd started slipping. "She doesn't care anymore," he'd say, his voice heavy, like he was reciting a truth he'd worn smooth. He'd tell me how he'd grind at work, keeping the bills paid, the family afloat, and come home hoping for a shred of appreciation. "You're holding us together," or even a simple "thanks." But his wife was swamped, diapers, carpools, her own job, and he'd get a quick "good job," if anything, before she'd turn away. Then one day a coworker, a bubbly woman from accounting, started noticing. "Tom, you're the guy who keeps this place running," she'd say, laughing at his dry humor, and he soaked it up like a man parched. It wasn't love. He didn't want her, not really. But it was air, a breath of worth he wasn't getting at home. He cheated, a one-time thing, he swore, but it cracked his marriage wide open. When we unpacked it, he wasn't after her body. He was after that feeling of being seen, of matching. This sign, it's a window into something raw and human. Men don't always voice it. I didn't, not with Anna, and Tom didn't either. But when validation vanishes, they start looking, sometimes without even clocking what they're doing. It's not always about romance or lust. It's about identity. I'd feel it in those quiet nights with Anna. Her when I'd share a story, like my words were background noise. I'd think, am I invisible here? And when that coworker's, you're a lifesaver, lit me up, I saw how hungry I'd been. Tom felt it too. I'm just the paycheck, he'd say, and that accounting woman's flirty praise was a lifeline he grabbed without a second thought. So what's the takeaway here? It's about trust, building it by noticing him, really seeing the man behind the routine. It's not about constant applause, that's a trap, but about weaving validation into the everyday. After Anna, I learned this with someone new. Let's call him Ryan. He'd tinker in the garage and I'd linger. You're so good at this. How'd you learn? He'd grin. You think so? And that spark kept us tethered. For Tom's wife, it was a game changer too. After they talked, she'd say, I see how hard you try. And he'd light up. That's all I need. Try it. I love how you handle this, or you're my rock. It's small, but it fills that gap. He won't need to chase it elsewhere. This sign, it's a call to see him, to keep him close with the simplest gift, knowing he's enough. Sign 2, emotional distance creeps in. It's one of those slow burns you don't notice until the chill sets in, and I've felt it firsthand. With Anna, the woman I've mentioned before, the one I thought was my forever, there was a time when our nights hummed with life. We'd sit on the couch, legs tangled, swapping stories about our days, her latest work drama, my goofy run-in with a neighbor's dog. Those talks weren't just chatter, they were threads stitching us together. But then bit by bit they faded. Life got in the way, her job stretched her thin, I got caught up in my own grind, and our evenings went quiet. No more deep talks, just surface stuff. How was work? Fine. You okay? Yeah. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was empty, a growing gap I didn't know how to name. And that gap? It's a crack infidelity slips through, a space where connection frays and someone else can slide in. Looking back, I see it clear as day. Those quiet nights weren't just a phase. They were a sign we'd stopped reaching for each other. This sign, it's subtle but seismic, and it's significant because emotional distance isn't loud like a fight or obvious like a slammed door. It's a slow drift, a fading of the intimacy that keeps love alive. With Anna, I didn't cheat, but I felt the pull. The way you start wondering if anyone else might hear you when the one who's supposed to doesn't. Our mornings became rushed, our dinners mechanical. Pass the salt. Sure. And I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling this ache I couldn't place. It wasn't that we hated each other. It was that we'd stopped sharing, stopped digging into the messy, beautiful stuff that makes a relationship real. That distance, it's a quiet thief, stealing the closeness you don't realize you've lost until it's gone. And when it's gone, the door's wide open for someone else to step in, someone who'll listen when he's ready to talk. I've seen this unfold beyond my own story, too, in the couples I've coached over the years. Take Jen, a woman who came to me after her world cracked open. Her husband had cheated, a fling with a friend she'd never suspected. When we sat down, she was raw. I don't get it, we were fine. But as we talked, the picture sharpened. She'd ask him, how are you? Every day, same routine, and he'd toss back, fine, like a reflex. Years of fine answers, no push, no pull, just coasting. He'd come home from his construction job, tired and tight-lipped, and she'd let it slide. He's just quiet, she'd think. But he wasn't quiet. He was starving for more than a surface check-in. Jen told me how he'd light up at barbecues, joking with that friend, the one he later strayed with. She'd ask about his day, and he'd talk. That friend didn't have some magic spell. She just opened a door Jen had stopped knocking on. Emotional intimacy fades when you don't connect, when fine becomes the wall you both hide behind. This sign, it's a mirror to something we all risk losing if we're not careful. With Anna, I'd stopped asking too. She's busy. I'd tell myself, letting our nights stay shallow. I'd share less, she'd share less, and soon we were roommates, not lovers. Jen's husband felt it too. I didn't know how to say I needed more, he told me later, after they started rebuilding. That distance, it's a crack because it's where men start drifting, not always to cheat, but to feel something again. I've been there, post-Anna, sitting in a bar, chatting with a stranger who'd ask, rough day? And I'd spill, just because she listened. It wasn't betrayal, but it was a taste of what I'd missed. So what's the way through? It's communication, real, raw, the kind that keeps him close instead of drifting to someone who'll hear him. With Anna, I wish I'd pushed past the fine. Sat her down. What's on your heart? And really listened, not just nodded. Jen learned this after the fallout. She'd catch her husband after work, not with a throwaway, how was it? But a gentle, What's on your mind today? He'd pause, then open up. The crew's a mess, or I'm wiped. And she'd sit there, ear on, letting him unwind. It wasn't instant, but it pulled him back. She became the one he turned to. Try it. Next time he's quiet, don't settle for fine. Ask, what's on your heart? Soft, steady, and mean it. Really listen. No fixing, no rushing. Let him feel heard. I did this later, with someone new. Let's call her Mia. She'd go silent after a fight, and I'd say, what's in there? And she'd talk slow at first, then all at once. That kept us tethered. This sign, it's a call to bridge that gap before it widens. Emotional distance creeps in when you stop connecting, and he might chase someone who'll listen. But you can be that, ask here, stay close, and he won't need to look elsewhere. Sign 3. He's chasing a lost spark. This one's a pull I felt deep in my bones, a restless itch that sneaks up when life starts feeling like a treadmill. After Anna, the woman I've told you about, my almost forever, things fell apart, and I found myself out there again, dating, searching for something I couldn't quite name. I'd meet someone new, and those first weeks? Electric, heart racing over a text, that giddy rush when she'd laugh at my dumb jokes. It was like waking up after a long sleep, every nerve lit up, alive. But here's the thing, I wasn't just chasing her. I was chasing that feeling, that early high when everything's fresh and the world's wide open. Men cheat for that. To feel alive again, especially when life's routine starts weighing them down like a wet blanket. It's not always about the other person. It's about recapturing a spark that's flickered out where it matters most. This sign, it's a quiet ache that can turn loud if you let it. And it's significant because it's less about betrayal and more about yearning. With Anna, before the end, we'd settled into a rhythm, work, dinner, TV, repeat. And it wasn't bad, just predictable. The late night talks faded. The silly bets over who'd win at cards stopped. And I didn't notice how much I missed that buzz until it was gone. I'd catch myself daydreaming about those early days. Her teasing me over burnt toast, the way we'd dance in the kitchen to no music. And after we split, I chased that rush elsewhere. New dates, new faces, anything to feel that jolt again. It wasn't love I wanted. It was life, that sense of being fully in it, not just coasting through. Men step outside their relationships when the spark dims, when the everyday drowns out the play that keeps love breathing. I've seen this beyond my own stumbles, too, in the folks I've coached over the years. Take Mark, a client who came to me after his marriage hit a wall. He'd strayed, a brief fling with a bartender he met on a late shift. When we sat down, he didn't dodge it. It's all bills now, he said, his voice flat, like he'd been running on fumes. He and his wife had built a life, 2 kids, a mortgage, but it had turned into a checklist. Pay this, fix that, collapse into bed. He'd tell me how they used to be. Road trips on a whim, sneaking kisses at stoplights. And then it was just survival, no room for fun. That bartender? She'd laugh at his stories, flirt over his drink order, and he'd feel it. That old rush, like he was 25 again, not 40 with a minivan. I felt alive, he said, not proud, just honest. He didn't love her. He loved the spark she dangled, the one he'd lost at home. This sign, it's a lens into something universal. Routine's a thief. It creeps in, turns love into duty, and men start chasing that lost high elsewhere. I felt it post-Anna. Those dates weren't about forever. They were about feeling something, anything beyond the grind. Mark felt it too. It's not her fault, he'd say, but we stopped living. That spark, it's not just sex or romance. It's play, the lightness that makes you feel seen, not just needed. I've been on the other side later, with someone new. Let's call her Sarah. We'd hit that rut, work, sleep, repeat, and I'd catch myself eyeing the door, not to leave but to feel awake. She sensed it, and one night she grinned. Let's ditch the dishes, dance with me. No music, just us swaying, laughing at my 2 left feet. That jolt, it kept me there. So, how do you hold on to this? It's emotional intimacy through play, not duty but delight. Mark's wife turned it around after they talked. She'd nudge him, date night, no excuses, or send flirty texts, you're still hot. They'd sneak out for ice cream, kids asleep, and he'd say, this is us again. She reignited it, small moves, big impact. With Sarah, it was her pulling me into that dance, or me saying, remember our first kiss? And we'd relive it, giggling like fools. Try it. Stir that spark. Let's skip the plan, just drive. Or you still give me butterflies. It's not about grand gestures. It's about waking up together. I coached a couple, Lisa and Ben, who'd lost it to schedules. She'd whisper, you're my adventure. And he'd plan a picnic, just them. That play? It's intimacy he'll seek with you, not outside. This sign, it's a wake-up call to keep love alive, not just surviving. He chases that spark when routine buries it, but you can light it, play, tease, connect, and he'll run to you, not away. Sign 4. Resentment festers unspoken. This one's a slow poison, the kind that seeps in so quietly you don't feel the sting until it's deep. I lived this with Anna, the woman I've been weaving into these stories, the one who started as my everything. Early on, we'd navigate little hiccups with ease. She'd forget to call, I'd shrug it off, no big deal. But as time wore on, those hiccups piled up. She'd leave dishes in the sink after I'd cooked, or brush off plans we'd made, and I'd swallow it. It's fine, I'd tell myself, stuffing the irritation down like a sock in a drawer. I held grudges she'd never know about, tiny petty things, like how she'd interrupt me mid-story or tune out when I needed her ear. I didn't say a word, just let it simmer, and over months it built a wall between us, brick by silent brick. I didn't cheat, but I see now how that unspoken resentment could have pushed me, or anyone, toward someone else. Men cheat when they're mad but mute, when the anger they won't voice starts carving a path out. This sign, it's a shadow that grows in the quiet, and it's significant because resentment doesn't need a megaphone to do damage. With Anna, I'd lie awake some nights, replaying those little slights, her distracted when I'd share a win, the way she'd leave her shoes where I'd trip over them, and I'd stew, not storm. I thought I was being noble, keeping the peace, but I was building a cage around my own heart. That wall didn't just block her out, it blocked us in, trapping us in a space where connection couldn't breathe. I'd catch myself pulling back, shorter talks, less touch. Not because I stopped loving her, but because I was mad and wouldn't say it. That silence, it's a crack, a fault line where infidelity can slip through, not out of spite, but out of a need to escape the weight of what's unsaid. I've seen this beyond my own tangle with Anna, too, in the couples I've walked alongside as a coach. Take Lisa, a woman who came to me after her husband's affair blindsided her. A co-worker, late nights, the kind of story that stings. When we dug into it, he opened up. She nags, I stew, he confessed, his voice tight with years of held-back frustration. He'd tell me how Lisa would harp on him. Why is the trash still here? Or, you're late again. And he'd nod, got it, while inside he was seething. He didn't yell back or call her out. He'd just shut down, letting it fester. I'd fix the car, she'd complain about the cost, he said. And I'd think, nothing's enough. That coworker? She didn't nag, she'd ask, how'd you manage that? And he'd feel light, not loaded. He cheated, not because he loved her, but because he'd stopped talking to Lisa about the resentment piling up at home. This sign, it's a mirror to a trap we all risk falling into. With Anna, I'd let those grudges grow, her forgetting my birthday once, her half listening when I needed her, and I'd tell myself, she'll figure it out. She didn't, and I didn't either, not until it was too late. Lisa's husband felt it too. I didn't want to fight, he'd say, but that silence was its own war. Men don't always storm out when they're mad. They retreat, and that retreat can lead them straight to someone who doesn't carry the baggage of their unspoken gripes. I've been there post-Anna, with a friend who'd listen when I vented about a rough day. Nothing romantic, but a relief from the mute anger I'd carried before. So, how do you turn this around? It's communication, clearing the air before it thickens with resentment. With Anna, I wish I'd spoken up. I'm upset you brushed me off, let's fix it. Calm, not cutting. Lisa learned this after the fallout. She'd catch her husband tense, and instead of nagging, she'd ask, what's bugging you? Soft, open, no edge. He'd pause, then spill. The kids wore me out, and she'd listen, not leap to fix. It wasn't instant, but it shifted them. He'd vent, she'd hear, and the walls started crumbling. Try it. When he's off, don't stew, say, what's on your mind? And mean it. I did this later, with someone new. Let's call her Kate. She'd snap sometimes, and I'd feel that old grudge rising, but I'd breathe. I'm frustrated, can we talk? She'd soften. Yeah, me too. And we'd sort it, not simmer. You've got to speak up too, not just hear him, but share. I'm upset, let's fix it, I'd tell Kate, and it opened us up. Trust grew because we didn't let resentment rot. This sign, it's a call to break the silence. He cheats when he's mad but mute, but communication clears it. Ask, speak, connect. And trust blooms where resentment once festered. Sign 5. He's escaping his own skin. Let's close with the 5th sign. He's escaping his own skin. This one's deep, a current that runs beneath the surface, and I've felt its pull in my own bones. After Anna, the woman I've woven through these stories, the one who broke my heart and taught me more than she'll ever know, things unraveled, and I was left picking up the pieces. I'd thought we were solid, but when it ended, I wasn't just grieving her. I was grappling with me. Doubts about who I was without her, fears I'd failed at something I'd poured my soul into. I didn't sit with it though, not at first. I ran, diving into flings like they were lifelines. Short, shallow connections with women I met at bars or through friends. It wasn't about love or even lust, really. It was about dodging the pain, outrunning the voice in my head whispering, "You're not enough." Men cheat to escape their own skin, to flee from failure, fear, or whatever's gnawing at them, and I've been there chasing shadows to avoid the mirror. This sign, it's a raw, quiet truth, and it's significant because it's less about the relationship and more about the man inside it. With Anna, the breakup wasn't just a loss, it was a reckoning. I'd built so much of myself around us, my worth, my plans, and when it crumbled, I didn't know how to stand in the wreckage. Those flings, they were band-aids, quick highs to numb the sting of feeling small. I'd laugh with a stranger over drinks, feel that fleeting rush of being wanted, and for a night, I could pretend I wasn't afraid, of being alone, of not measuring up. It wasn't cheating in the classic sense. I was single, but it was escape, a way to dodge the hard work of facing myself. That's the thread here. Men step outside when the pain inside gets too loud, when they're running from something they can't outpace alone. I've seen this beyond my own stumbles, too, in the men I've coached over the years. Take Jake, a client who came to me after his life took a sharp turn. He'd cheated, a one-off with a woman he met at a conference, and it nearly torched his marriage. When we sat down, he didn't hide it. "My job tanked," he said, his voice rough with the weight of it. He'd been a manager, steady paycheck, the guy everyone leaned on, until layoffs hit and he was out, scrambling for scraps. "I felt worthless," he told me, eyes down, like he was still carrying the shame. His wife was solid, bills paid, kids fed, but he couldn't shake the failure, the fear he'd let her down. "That conference fling?" She'd flirted. "You've got a spark." And he clung to it, not because he loved her, but because for a few hours he wasn't the guy who'd lost it all. He was escaping his own skin, dodging the pain of who he'd become. This sign, it's a lens into something primal. With Anna gone, I'd feel it in the quiet, nights alone, wondering if I'd ever get it right. I'd chase those flings, not for forever, but for a break from the doubts clawing at me. Jake felt it too. "I couldn't face her," he'd say, meaning his wife, but really himself. Men don't always cheat for sex or romance. They cheat to feel whole, to outrun the fear they're not enough. I've been on the other side later, with someone new. Let's call her Claire. I hit a rough patch, work dried up, and I'd withdraw, tempted to flirt elsewhere, not to leave but to feel big again. She saw it, pulled me close. "You're still you," and that stopped me cold. So, how do you meet this? It's about being his anchor, trust and intimacy he'll cling to, not flee from. Jake's wife turned it around after they talked. She didn't lecture, just held him. "You're still my rock." He'd cry, "Really?" And that tether kept him home. With Claire, it was her steady. "I'm here through this." When I doubted myself, simple, but it grounded me. Try it. When he's low, job's gone, confidence shot, don't fix, just say, "I've got you." I coached a couple, Tom and Sarah, where he'd falter after a business flop. She'd whisper, "You're my strength," and he'd stay, not stray. That presence, it's a lifeline. This sign, it's a call to see his pain, not just his actions. He escapes when he can't face himself, but you can hold him. "I'm here, you're enough." And that trust, that intimacy, pulls him back to you, not away. There's your 5: validation, distance, spark, resentment, escape. These aren't just signs, they're windows into what he's missing, what you can nurture. Before we wrap, here's a story that ties it together. I met an older guy at a diner, 50 years married. "She cheated once," he said, "but we talked, really talked. They rebuilt. I saw her, she saw me." That's it. Understanding why can heal or prevent. Reflect. What's missing in your love? How can you bridge it? Thanks for sitting with me. If this hit you, tap that like. It spreads the insight. Subscribe if you're in, and let's talk. Comment. Which sign surprised you? I'll read every one. Stay true to yourself. To all the spicy ladies, make life beautiful. See you in our next video.